Hi boys and girls, and welcome to today's lesson. So what you are going to need for today's project is a piece of paper, a cup with water, one paintbrush, markers, any kind of markers will do, and you're gonna need a pencil. I'm using a pen just so that you guys can see it when I draw it on my paper and it shows up in the video, but I wanna clarify that you guys are going to need a pencil for the outline. So what I'm gonna do today is show you guys how to use markers to create a watercolor effect. Since a lot of you guys said that you may not have paint at home, this is a cool technique that you can kind of create paint with just your markers. So what we're gonna be doing today is we're gonna be drawing a few different leaves. Now, if you don't wanna draw leaves, you could just do a shape. You could do a circle, a square, a heart, whatever you wanted. I'm just gonna be showing you guys this with leaves. I'm gonna draw two different leaves because I think that it will look really cool with the technique that we're doing today. Oh, it seems like this pen is running out of ink. So I'm actually going to use a Sharpie instead. But like I said, you guys are going to be using a pencil for this part because it'll just work out better. If you use a marker, when we go to do the water technique, it'll smear it. But I just want to do it in something dark so it shows up and you guys can see it like a Sharpie. If you want to have black outlines on whatever you're doing, you could use a Sharpie as well if your parents allow it at your house. Okay, so like I said, just drawing a little leaf. So there is one of our leaves. And let's do one more. And as you can see, I'm kind of doing it like a contour line drawing, which means that I'm not lifting up my marker to do this. But you don't need to do that. You can look at a picture to do this. You can do this however you want. And like I said, you don't even have to do a leaf if you don't want to. And some leaves have little like holes in them. So I'm gonna draw that as well. So if I'm moving too quick for you, go ahead and pause your video, catch up. But right now you should have the outlines of whatever shapes that you want to use done in a pencil. And yeah, then we're ready to move on to the next step. So the next step is to lay out your colors that you want your leaves or whatever shape to be. So I'm gonna have my first one be green, yellow, and brown, so kind of natural colors. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna mark out the areas kind of around the outline where I want there to be color. Now you can copy mine exactly how I have the color laid out, or you can just add little bits here and there. Or if you want to see the technique that we'll be doing, you could actually just watch and see how the finished product turns out before you add any of your color. It's really up to you. It's your own masterpiece. So like I said, I'm using those three colors that I picked. Just placing them on the leaf. Now, if you are a first grader, we did a similar technique to this when we created our geodes. So if you are a first grader and did the geode project, we kind of did something like this before. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You just want to place your color. And once your color is placed, you kind of want to do this quickly while the marker ink is still kind of wet. So you're going to dip your paintbrush into water. You want to get it really wet, and then you are going to smear your markers and get kind of a watercolor effect. Like I said, you're going to want to use a lot of water, but not so much that you're going to rip the page, but you're just kind of blending all those colors together. You can see the colors are really starting to bleed together. And even if it goes outside the lines, that's fine. I think it looks pretty cool. If you want to go in and add a little bit more while it's wet, just pressing lightly, that's fine too. And then you can go over it again. I'm just adding some little small green lines. Going back in with our color again. And there we have our first leaf. Oh, it kind of got wet right there, but that's okay. It'll dry, and when this dries, it will look really cool. I will actually post this picture once it's all dried onto our Instagram at H2 Visual Art, so you guys can see what the finished product looks like. So for this next one, I'm gonna do some more fall type colors. So I'm gonna do red, and I'm gonna do orange. And I'm also, instead of just doing all warm colors, which are red, orange, and yellow, which are usually what we think of when we think of fall, I'm actually gonna do orange, red, and purple. So it's a little bit more of like a fantasy or made up leaf. So not the type of leaf that we'd normally see in the wild. Although there are some leaves that have some purple in it, I've seen before. And once you have your color in, just get a bunch of that water on your paintbrush, and it's time to blend our colors together. I actually quite like how it looks with the permanent marker. So if you have a permanent marker to do the outlines, by all means, use that with parent permission, of course. But yeah, I think it looks beautiful. Because then they kind of, as you can see, it kind of bleeds outside the edges, but you can still see the crisp edges with the Sharpie, and I'm really liking it. I'm really happy with how both of these leaves are turning out. So it's just a cool technique. You're kind of getting to blend together colors that look, it kind of looks like watercolor, but you're actually just using water and markers. And the cool thing about this is the longer you let it sit together and the more water you use, remember, don't use too much water, it'll rip the paper. You can see even the one that we just did first, it's all kind of like blended together and it's dried in such a pretty way. Now, optional, I actually don't have any with me right now, but if you want to put table salt on top of this while it is still wet, it'll create a really unique leaf texture because the salt actually soaks up the water, so it leaves kind of like a speckled bubbly look. Really cool texture if you're interested in doing that. So I am really happy with how this turned out. I think our leaves look really pretty. So like I said, you don't have to do leaves if you don't want to. You could do circles, stars, hearts, whatever you like. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's lesson, and I will see you guys tomorrow for our next art activity.